Are you guys also feeling this sort of like feeling the end of this thing, even though it's not necessarily happening?
I feel like I don't want it to end.
Ooh.
I love staying at home and doing nothing.
No, I definitely feel that. There are days when I just want, yeah, for sure, that I would like do this forever, and there are days when I'm just like, get me the hell out of this house.
Yeah.
Back and forth for sure.
Definitely.
I think this is so weird. It like keeps changing screens. I think it's weird because like.
Oh, sorry. Hey, why don't you hit on the top right? There's like a gallery view button that will let you see everybody, so that way it doesn't bounce around on us or
That's
on
so
you.
much better.
Yeah. And then it's like, hi, now that here are all the faces.
I know, rather than just when someone's talking. Like I think it's nice being home, but it's starting to like make me panic for next year, because the longer that I have nothing to do right now, I'm like thinking about 2021 and I'm like,
oh man,
I'm gonna die. Like there's no way, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, maybe this discussion can help with that, because I know that I've had a pretty decent number of inquiries for like small portraits for this year and weddings for next year. We booked 2, maybe 3 weddings over the past couple weeks, or over the past few days for 2021, and all of the discussions in them are like, and we are very aware that we are competing with 2020 clients, so we're moving fast, and so like any of the weddings that I've had are not dragging their feet, but that means that next year is either going to be like a crazy mad season, or people are going to need to find ways to like slow themselves down intentionally so that they can, you know, be much more intentional with their work. And part of that might be something like this, where you offer new services that you weren't offering before. So I mean, one of the things I'm the most fascinated about coming through this quarantine phase has been the evolution of people's businesses, not just in the photo world, but kind of everywhere. And I've been like, anybody I can get my hands on, I've been asking to like write up little stories for us in terms of like how their business has evolved, how their businesses have changed. And I'm trying to get as many people as I can to kind of contribute those. And so that'll evolve into something towards end of this thing, trying to get a sense of like how people have seen or how they've utilized their time in quarantine, and what we can learn from that. But maybe wedding albums will help people. I don't know. It's a new world, right?
Yep. There you go.
Cool. So let's, even though there's just the couple of us on here right now, let's go around anyway, introduce ourselves. Michael Kent. This is the thing I do. I do this thing, Photo Club, and Alan Kent Photography. And this is the question we'll ask for this round. Do you sell wedding albums? And the answer is yes. I've sold 2 wedding albums in like 12 years.
There we go.
Yeah. So of course I'm an expert. Let's listen to me talk for the next X number of minutes. No, I've been really bad at it. I do a lot with my families and mostly with my seniors. I sell a lot of like guest books and like little like kind of like I call them gift books. It's like a little 3-pack. But even that I'm looking to like up my game on and do better with. I do a lot of printing, but I don't do a lot of albums. So Sydney, you want to talk about who you is?
Yeah, I'm Sydney. I am a wedding photographer in Grand Haven. I do sell lots of albums. Like that's one of my things that I'm really good at it. And I'm excited to kind of talk more about that today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Andrea?
I'm Andrea Brandt. I live in Southeast Michigan, and I am a wedding and elopement photographer. And I am really good at selling albums, and I can't wait to talk about it because last year I made a little over $13,000 selling albums.
That is baller.
Yeah, that's great.
And I'm not even good.
What's that?
I'm not like a salesperson or anything. Like, I just figured out this method that works for me, and it just works. I don't know. It's amazing.
See, I'm a big believer in that, and I'm the same way. Like, I've used this number a few times, and having you say 13,000 makes me feel a lot better about bragging, because I do a lot of print sales. I do a lot of IPS, but I do it very non-traditionally, in-person sales. I have a studio downtown, and I bring my clients in whenever they ask for it. I bring them in. I'm very low pressure sales, and so I'm like not one to do like techniques and tricks. I don't have packages. It's all a la carte, and I spend way too much time with each one of my clients. But people leave there spending like $1,600, $2,200 on prints. Last year, I screwed that up with a business model change that was a bad idea, so that completely nuked our entire print season last year. This year, there was a pandemic and I had a baby, so that nuked this year for print sales. People don't want to sit in a room with you and touch paper together. And then the year before that, my most profitable year, and I haven't done the math on the entire year because that was too much work, but I have a number in my head that not this past January, not the one before, but the one before that, I made $20,000 by shooting 0 photos in January, and just sat down with my clients, drank a lot of tea, drank some wine, listened to a lot of music, have a big display in my studio, and we just clicked through photos. It was a lot of work, and it wasn't no minutes, but I definitely made a lot of money, and kind of touched base with all of my, well, not all of, many of my clients. And got me through my slow season like handily. So that was a very nice January. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So do you wanna say hi? Did you say where you are? I can't remember.
No, I did not.
Cool.
I live in Grand Rapids, and I, like you, have sold 2 albums, and it was horrible. So I stopped pursuing that avenue. But now I have like I went to not Pixie Set, Pick Time. And they seem to make album sales better, maybe. But I haven't really tried yet. So
we've talked about this a little bit. Laura Babb was on a couple episodes ago, and she is like an ambassador for Pick Time. And our gallery delivery is through Smug Mug, only because we've been on with them for like 10 years. So I've got so much data in there. Pick Time is the first thing that I've looked at and went, oh, that might make me change. Haven't committed to anything yet, but that system does look pretty good. As somebody who also sells very few albums, it looks very enticing to be like, have somebody else go, yes, I would like to spend $1,000 on some paper in a box, and then go do it.
You know, Time will they will migrate all of your data over.
That's what I did.
Excuse
I was
me?
like,
yeah, Pick Time. They'll they'll do it for you. They'll move everything over.
Well, that's interesting. The only issue then would be having a client go, hey, I clicked on that photo from 10 years ago and it's not there anymore. What's going on? And you have to feel that question a lot. But because I once had a client that was like very nervous about their photos being like used for marketing. And I just, for whatever reason, had like released the passwords on a certain subfolder of my gallery sets for like 20 minutes just to like do some maintenance. I'm like, nobody will notice. And I got an email within like 5 minutes saying like, hey, I was just like browsing my photos from 5 years ago, and I noticed there wasn't a password on it. And I went, how? So, you know, I'm sure when you, Andrew, did you say you converted over that way?
Yeah. I went from Pixie Set to Pick Time, but I don't sell my albums on Pick Time.
Okay, good to know. So that thing that I'm like, that's the savior, you're like, that's not that thing.
I don't like it.
Okay,
I think
interesting.
it's really confusing, and I think like part of the thing people are paying for is for like your eye and your like ability to put the album together for them.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think that's the argument of passive gallery sales versus in-person sales as well. I mean, that's the reason that anytime somebody sits down with me in studio, the very like my base income from there is like $350, but it scales up to, like I said, like $1,600, $2,200 on the high end for like a 45 to 90-minute session in studio, and then that's, you know, print session, not shooting session. But then when somebody orders just like just a couple photos off of Smug Mug, they end up spending like $37. And I mean, I'm of the mind that there's a chance that person wouldn't have come in anyway. They're definitely not looking for $1,700 worth of prints. And so by offering one, you're not like undercutting the other. You kind of need both. But I definitely I definitely see much, like right now, people are buying things, and there are people that I know would be willing to spend a lot more if I could take the time to sit down with them, but I can't do it. I can't sit down face to face with them right now. So let's jump in. It's Steph, right?
Yes.
Do you have any specific questions you want to ask before we kind of like dive into kind of the thoughts that we were experimenting with? Like what have you tried in the past? You said you've sold 2. How did that go? And what did that look like when you did that?
It was probably like 5 years ago.
Okay.
It was such a stressful thing. I like blacked it out. I don't even remember what I used to do it.
Yeah.
I know that I like included it in a package because I was like, oh, if I include it, then I can like make it look nice and take pictures of it and then like promote it. And then I was like, this looks like booty. I'm not doing that. And it was like super cheap. I don't know. I don't even remember where it was from. But I remember it took me a really long time and I had to like do it in Photoshop and I don't remember.
Yeah, the first one I did, I laid it out in InDesign and also tried to learn InDesign at the same time. I now know how to use InDesign, and every time I open it, for some reason, it still shows me that wedding as like, would you like to open some previous things that make your heart palpitate? And you're like, no, thank you, close that forever. But for some reason, it still recommends that album every single time. It doesn't look terrible, but man, it took me like 5 hours to design. Same thing, Steph?
Long time. Long time.
For you two that do sell albums, how long does it take you to design an album? About 4 hours, so we should cut an hour off that time, hopefully.
Not even.
What's that?
10 minutes.
I thought so.
10 minutes.
Yeah,
10
Pretty
minutes.
much. 20 minutes.
What?
Yeah.
So
So Steph, you and I are doing something way wrong.
We're doing it
not
wrong.
doing this
We were off. That was way off.
Yeah.
I used to use Photoshop and I would buy like templates for albums and I would try to like drop the pictures in and resize them and crop them, and it would take me like 2 weeks to design an album. It was awful. I hated it so much.
Yeah.
And now that I figured out how to do it like easily, it's fun. And it takes me like 10 minutes.
Yeah. So Tiffany Clark is on the live stream on Facebook, and she just said, I think the only one I've ever designed was more than 5 hours, but it was beautiful. Cool. Let's hope you could get it down to like 20 minutes and it would still be beautiful. Those ones you're designing in 20 minutes aren't ugly, right? They're still pretty.
So good.
Good. Cool. So let's just start with, Sid, do you want to go over that data that we collected first?
Yes.
That way we kind of like,
Yes, I wrote it all down and everything. So
cool. I just have screenshots on my phone. So Sydney and I both did a poll on our personal or our business Instagrams, and she posted it originally, and then I stole her idea so that we could do a comparison. And the questions we asked were, by the way, this was like an incredible experience for me, because I also added prints as well. So I asked the questions that you asked, and then I also asked people if they have like wall art in their home. So the questions that we were supposed to ask together. Oh my God, I'm getting so many text messages. It's not important right now.
I wrote it down.
Yeah, that would have been smart. This is why you're smarter than me. Okay.
Not true.
For those who are married or planning on being married, I wrote, is a tangible album important to you? Would you rather have an album included in your photography package or as an add-on? And then I had added, I guess it doesn't have to be just wedding people, any sort of photography session. What's more important to you in your wedding album, quality or price? And then, there's one more. Is having the option for duplicate albums and parent albums important? Actually, there's now one more. With your wedding album, would you want to pick out the photos or have your photographer design it for you and allow you to make changes? To that, I added, do you have a lot of printed photographs in your home? Do you wish you had more? Oh, just those two. And then why don't if you answered yes, you wish you had more, why don't, what is stopping you from creating more art for your home? Sydney, what were your, let's just go from the start. Like the first one, is a tangible album important to you? What was your results on that?
So I had 64% as yes and 36 as no.
Oh man, I did not save the percentages. I should have saved this down, man.
Did you save the numbers?
Well, I just took screenshots of like this page that has like the numbers back and forth, and then that wipes out the percentage. I can pull it back up because I do think this is really super interesting data, and I thought it would be kind of fun going forward. We could start to do these kind of things maybe like once a month or so, and ask everybody who's interested to like kind of poll their clients and see what they what they get frequently. Yeah, the percentage is gone. Mine was 79 said yes and 15 said no.
Okay, I'll pull up my yes and no's. Give me 1 second here.
Okay, I'll write down our numbers. Album important.
All right, so mine for the full results say 27 said yes and 15 said not really.
Interesting. Because mine was 80 said yes and 15 said no.
I didn't have that many people do mine.
Interesting. That's interesting because I don't actually have really good luck with polls traditionally. Mm-hmm. And this one just did really, really well. People like to have opinions apparently. Would you rather have your album included as a package or as an add-on? What were your numbers?
I had 15 included and 27 as an add-on.
Interesting. Okay, so mine were 46 included. Oop, that's not 26, that's 46. 46 included and 51 as an add-on. So like almost completely split down the middle on that one. The next one, what is more important to you, quality or price?
Mine is 33 for quality and 10 for price.
33, that's fascinating. So I honestly think we should take that one with a grain of salt. Mine is 72 and 17. I think when asked as a binary choice like that, they're gonna say quality, but then you throw a $2,000 album in front of their face and they go, it's beautiful, but man, I can't, like when they're confronted with an actual number, I'm sure that number is different, but maybe I need to learn better. Parent albums and duplicates.
Here. 22 voted yes for parent albums and 17 voted no.
Okay, cool. Mine was 63 yes and 19 no. We're getting very similar results, although our included was like, mine was like half and half, and yours was aggressively towards not included, correct?
Yes.
And then, do you want to pick them out or have your photographer design?
I had 14 wanted to pick them out themselves, and 26 wanted me to do it.
Interesting. Mine was 33 and 50. So a similar split, but no, that's a pretty similar split. That's really interesting. And then just I'll share my numbers on the other ones. Do you have a lot of printed photos in your house? It was 66 yes, 77 no. The do you wish you had more was 96% said yes. I don't know why the percentage shows up for this one and not the other ones. But 122 said yes and 8 said no.
Wow.
Yeah, and so then I asked, and actually, I will include these answers because there's a lot of them on basically like why, what limits you from printing more? All of your photos, not just professional. Wall space, laziness, space, uncertain how to display. I take pictures with my iPhone. I really don't think they print that well. COVID. So there's a huge range of answers, and I'll make a note. Why not print answers? I'll add that to the show notes. Because I think that's really interesting information, and that's like actionable data That's stuff that, I mean, that's going to really depend on your client base. And I think that if you ask those questions to your clients and say, hey, why do you see yourself not printing right now? And you can figure out solutions to those things. Your clients will say, oh, well, hypothetically, if there's also money that they have for it, hey, I have a solution for that pain point I have. You could even reach out to them directly and say, hey, it looked like you were interested. I've got a solution for that thing. I'm definitely going to be doing more of that, because the second I posted these polls as well, I had a client from next year go, oh, you guys do albums?
See, there you go. That's why we do these kind of things, because you're showing up and showing that hey, I do prints and albums. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So last fall, I did a whole reprint of samples for our studio, and I took I took 15 minutes and staged them nice in my house. We have a very cute house. It's not huge, but we have a cute house. Staged just some client photos of varying types all around the house, and then photographed them and photographed me installing them to give our clients like a guide through like how to install. And I think having that content is really cool. So, Steph, saying that you wanted to include an album so that you could have an excuse to photograph it is not insane. Like, that's a good idea. Spending that much time on it, and also you technically weren't paid for it, and you're basically just giving that away. I don't think that's super valuable, but finding some way to get the content that you need to sell is really important, because you won't have people who want to buy it until you have that product that they can see. Are we in agreement on that? That's just coming from print sales stuff. I don't have that theory on albums necessarily, but.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with that. This was like a million years ago that I even like gave it a go. So.
For sure. Are you thinking about adding them back in?
Yeah, I do. I do want to get better at them. That's why I popped in.
That's why here.
That's
cool.
why.
Cool. All right. So let's talk for you guys. So we got the stats taken care of. And I'll put not just the questions, but I'll also put the percentages and the kind of pro and cons in the show notes as well, so we can have that breakdown, because I think that's interesting. For both of you guys, for Sydney and Andrea, how many albums do you say you produce a year?
10 to 12.
10 to 12.
I'd say somewhere between 10 and 15.
Cool.
If not a little more.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
From compared to 2 over 12 years. Are they included in your packages, or are they add-ons?
Not included. I do mine all a la carte.
Sydney?
I do both. It depends on, like, my top package does include one. But that's the only package that I have that includes one. Everything else is just a la carte.
Interesting. So my theory was, so none of our packages include them. Our top package also used to include one, but I even took it out of there. I have this big fear of like putting all my money aside for my slow season, and then January comes across and like, oh cool, 20 weddings are owed a $200 album, and now I gotta like 20 times 200. I don't want to spend that kind of money in January, so I'd much rather be like being paid for. And I understand, like, you put that money aside, whatever, but it still feels like a cost in January, even though they did pay for it. So I personally don't include anything anymore. I don't include any physical deliverables other than like a la carte stuff after the fact. So not included. So it sounds like I wrote down, do you enjoy creating the albums? It sounds like you do both enjoy it.
Yeah, I have something to say about including albums in your package.
Ooh, please.
So I used to do that, or like I tried it for a long time, and I found that almost every single person I talked to was like, we want this package, but can you take the album off? Because we don't need an album. And like, they don't see the album as being worthwhile in the beginning. They don't see it as like a bunch of money that they can get off of their package. So they're going to ask you like to take it off. And then that puts you like in a hard spot, and you're like, well, what do I say? Because like, you don't want to take it off because you want them to have the album. And then you got to try to like convince them why the album is worth it. And I'm not into that at all, because I'm not into like sales or anything like that. So that's why having it separate works way better for me. And now I'm like making so much money doing it this way that I don't even need to have them be part of my package.
It's almost like you need to like not include them so that you make them valuable, and then you need to convince them by making the photos so great and the memory so good that they want to have a physical, tangible version of that.
Yes.
Really interesting.
And it kind of depends on how you like present it too. That's because that was my thing at first, you know, because I used to like way back in the day, I used to include albums in like every package because like why not? You know, that's what I heard from somebody was like, if you include them, they'll be great, and then blah blah blah. So then I just switched to, you know, my top package, and then I'm very clear about why it's included in there. I mean, this is like a top package that's like, you know, 10 to 12 hours, you know, they're already spending a lot of money. So for me, it's almost like giving back to them in a way. Like I'm not losing any money or anything like that. And then I have very strict rules of like, it has to be ordered within 6 months of their wedding. Otherwise they forfeit it. You know, it's just like, it really just depends on how you present it to your couples. And that's how you kind of show the worth to it. But yeah, I definitely agree that add-ons are way easier to do.
Interesting. I think I'm always resistant of those like time-based things. Like I know Pick Time is kind of like, it seems to be centered around that sort of like, it's going to expire, you better spend $1,000 now or it's going to go away. And those to me, that's part of that whole like high pressure sales thing where like, I'm sure it works. I'm sure I could add a zero to the amount of money I made on prints, but like, I don't like it. It just feels like we like to talk about ourselves as like, we're the good guys. If someone has a problem, as long as it's not like cutting into our, our ability to pay our bills and stuff, I'm going to find a way to do it. And that's going very well right now during COVID because we have people who are like making mistakes and we're finding ways to like make it work for them. But I don't know, I feel like the 6-month thing for a wedding album is reasonable. But across the board, any of those like time-based, buy it or lose it things, just kind of eke me out.
Yeah. So I totally get that.
Sorry.
You're fine. I totally understand. Like, for me personally, like, I had issues with people like not ordering their wedding albums until like a year or two later, and it was just really frustrating for me. So I mean, you know, I've been really lenient with it because of COVID and everything. Like I just ordered probably about 2 months ago a wedding album from last August, but that's because of COVID, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just like, it is flexible, but they do know like, hey, you can't just sit around and not do it. And then all of a sudden, because then, you know, we have that issue of the money is not there, you know, because we had to pay taxes or whatever else, you know, like the quicker I get it done, the quicker I get it in their hands, the more they talk about it, the more excited they are. And that's how you sell more albums too.
Yeah, and sometimes I think that those time-based things do allow you to kind of be the good guy anyway, because you can be like, oh yeah, that's fine, I'll just waive that, and you know, because especially if they end up spending money, then you're like putting the time crunch on it, but then at the end of the day when they come there, you're just like, oh, no worries, but now they're there to spend money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you guys do a lot of upsell with it? Like, or I guess, so Sydney, when you do have somebody with one included, do they end up spending additional money, or do they feel like they have that thing like already paid for, and so they're like, I don't want to spend more than what's already there?
It's usually they end up spending more, because like the included album that I have is my base album, which is like 10 spreads. And, you know, for a 10-hour to 12-hour wedding, 10 spreads does not cover the day whatsoever, which is why I have like an album worksheet, and we go through that and everything, and I kind of like lay out their album before their wedding even happens. And that's one thing that works for me, but definitely like having that, and then they can see it, you know, kind of more or less visualize it and know what's coming. I don't know. But yeah, totally. Usually a lot of my albums are like 15 to 20 spreads, if not a little bit more.
Yeah, I definitely have talked to people who always include them and always upsell, and one of the arguments is that like everybody upgrades and everybody basically, you know, in that moment in January is spending a little bit more, and that usually covers the actual cost of the album. and so it's really just your time sunk in January. That's all well and good. There was something else I was going to say on that, but I think I lost it. Andrea, you had something to say?
Yeah. So now I forgot what it was about. Timeline, or like having a time frame for them to order. I give them like a certain amount of time that they have to approve their design. And then I give them another certain amount of time that they have to order the album by, but I do payment plans.
Yeah.
And I will do those before. And as
yeah.
far as upgrade, I do a la carte, but I do a base album too. That's just the basic like 10 by 10 inch, 10 spreads. That's what I design and give to them. And then they inevitably want more spreads, or they want to add like text on the cover, or they want to have like leather or whatever. And so I usually end up upgrading.
That was something I was going to say. I have definitely noticed during print sales in general that money spent is money like, I think there's an expression here, or I'm a genius and I invented it. I can't remember. It's like money spent is money gone.
Money forgotten.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And so it's like somebody may spend $1,000 on a portrait session, and then they show up after the shoot or the scheduling, shooting, delivery, review, and then they show up in the studio, and it may be a few months later, and they're not going, okay, we spent 1,000 and this is another 500. We're at our cap. They're going, I have $1,000 to spend. This thing is $1,000. Let's spend that. So yeah, I mean, if you can keep that like a little bit of a distance, a couple pay periods in between those, especially after a wedding, I assume people would be much. Oh, that's the thing, right? Getting them done before the honeymoon, so they can like spend honeymoon money on it or something like that. Is this a thing people talk about?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, I don't.
I'll say most of my couples go straight to their honeymoon, so I don't know.
No, I'm getting bad information here, but I just remember hearing something a while ago about like if you get their album designed to them like during the honeymoon, they'll review it there and spend like their like wedding money, their gift money.
I don't believe that. Holy cow, if I was on my honeymoon, there's like no way I would want to be like looking at.
No, I don't want to bother anyone on their honeymoon.
Oh, same. I just thought this was maybe an industry standard that I was not doing.
Not that I know of.
Cool. I just brought really bad information into this conversation. Don't do that.
Somebody does it and it works for them, but I wouldn't suggest it.
And they sell used cars on the weekend.
Probably.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man. Okay. I got us totally sidetracked. Okay. Do you enjoy the selling of it? Like, do you enjoy like the conversation back and forth? I ask this because I know that when I can sit down with my clients in like January, February, I haven't shot in a little while, it is this like nice touchstone back with my clients. And I feel like going through the entire experience with them, they feel even more like into our vibe. Do you have a similar experience with album sales?
No.
Interesting.
I hate sales. I want nothing to do with IPS or in-person sales. I just get like all nervous and I don't like it at all. Just me. I'm like a super introvert. But like I deliver the pictures and then pretty much the next day is when they get their album design. They don't even know they're getting it. So
insane.
There is no like back and forth. I'm like, here's your album, buy it. I'll give you 20% off.
That's amazing. We talked about this in one of the calls, the call that made us realize we needed to have this discussion, and that so you're setting your pricing at that like 80% mark, and then if they don't buy, if they skip out on that 20% sale, then they're just actually spending more, right? So you're not actually cutting into your profits that way.
Yeah, so when we talk about pricing, I'll tell you all about how I do that.
Lovely. What about you, Sydney? Do you enjoy it?
Yes. I love well, for me, like sales is so different because like a lot of the times, like if couples book or buy their an album beforehand, and we meet up, I bring my sample albums, and it's just like they get to touch it and feel it. Like even like on my album selling page on my website, you know, I talk about my own wedding, you know, talk about my own, you know, wedding album, talk about like my parents' unfinished wedding album that my mom never finished of like, you know, 4x6s and little sleeves. So, you know, it's just like, I try to be more relatable about it to make like the sale a little easier than what it, you know, feels like. But I'm also like more of like a very talking to people. I'm kind of more, you know, like extroverted. So I love like creating connections, and I think like those connections create more sales for me. But like there's no right or wrong way to do it. I mean, like, you know, me and Andrea definitely do it completely different ways, and we both sell albums like crazy. So
Right.
I'm also lazy and I do not make an album for them the next day. I'm too lazy for that.
Right. What was I going to say? Something really important. I'm a little scattered today, you guys. Album sales, enjoying album sales. Oh yeah, I just have like a lot of mental tricks to like trick myself into thinking that I like sales. I just have to tell myself that I'm a gatekeeper and like the prices aren't set by me. They're basically set at corporate. There's no corporate. It's just me. I just sat there 5 minutes before them and was like changing things around on a PDF. Yeah, I just think of myself as a gatekeeper, and I don't push anything too hard. I don't make them feel like buy now or this stuff all gets burned in the incinerator in the back room. Instead, it just is this like freewheeling discussion about what they need and how to get them there. I know there's a way to make more on it. I just feel like that becomes icky, and I don't like it, so I don't go that route. Andrea,
Yeah,
I feel like
definitely.
go ahead. Sorry, Sid.
It's like a mindset thing, you know, to like not feel icky about it. Like, cause I
For
think
sure.
probably me, both Andrea and I, like, same way, you know, she's giving them something like the day after, like, hey, this is a surprise for you. Like, it's not feeling icky about it. And I think getting the right mindset about selling it is definitely one of the hugest keys to make money on albums.
For sure. Yeah, because you actually have to do it. One of the things that we'll dig into this later, but I know that the biggest block for me is literally just like balancing delivery, new client acquisition, and marketing albums. Like in the second that I post about them on Instagram, people are like, "Oh, can I buy some of those?" Yes, please. Okay. Hey, Andrew, I missed a little bit of this. You said, you know, you give them their wedding album design the next day. It's how long do you keep that? What's that?
After I deliver their pictures.
Next day after delivery. That's a much different thing.
It's actually like when I deliver their pictures, at the end of the email that I send, it says like, I can't wait to hear what you think of your photos.
Mm.
And they will email me right back and be like, oh my gosh, I love our pictures. They're amazing. You did such a good job. You know, like that kind of prompts them to email me back. And 9 times out of 10, they email me back like right away, or it might be like the next day. Or if I don't hear from them within a day, I'll send them another email and be like, hey, I sent you your pictures. I just want to make sure that you got them.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think of them. And as soon as they give me that like response where they're like, oh, we love our pictures, that's when I send the email that I'm like, I love them too, and I actually made you an album.
Love
and I'm
it.
like, here it is. You can look at it online. If you want to make any changes to it, you can make changes, and if you order it within a week, you get 20% off.
That was my next question. Within a week. Cool. Yeah, I love that. That's I feel like that's still another ticking clock, but I feel like that's a well designed. Like you don't have to do this, but if you do it during this ticking clock, you get a little perk.
Yeah.
So let's go a little bit into the mechanics of this. What vendors do you guys use for your albums?
I use Red Tree albums.
And those are those are a high end one, right? Those are pretty expensive. Sydney, what about you?
I am in the middle of switching album companies, actually.
Okay.
Not because of Corona or anything like that. Because the album company that I did use, which is Album Apaca, they're in Italy. I love them; they're wonderful. But I'm switching album companies right now to I think it's Blacksmith Print Company. They're just more kind of what I'm looking for in an album company, like very like customer service forward. But they're right around the same price. Like it's definitely a more high-end album companies is what I normally use.
Yeah. How did you spell the first one? Album Alpaca?
Yeah, I'll type it in.
Okay, cool. I'm picturing a llama, like an alpaca, but
No,
also
I don't know. I
album.
don't speak Italian, so I don't know.
Oh, that's like epoch, right? Like the
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I don't know.
90% of my clients buy albums. Interesting. Emily, welcome. I see you there. You sell a pretty decent amount of albums, don't you?
I just have to tell you, I've been driving home from town. I was listening to you in Walmart. I was like, COVID, hat, AirPods. I was like, I am in the zone.
That's amazing.
Listening to Photo Club. It was awesome.
That makes me so happy.
And ABC Liquor picking up boxes. It's like
I feel like that's the most Emily Gates thing I've ever heard.
ABC Liquor and Walmart.
No. The whole discussion. The only thing that would make it more Emily Gates is if you didn't spend a dime because you like bartered for everything. It's like I got these boxes of liquor. Can I get you guys like a wedding album in exchange for this? And they're like, I'm not married, and then somehow it just works because you're Emily.
This was a hard conversation because I wanted to ask questions all the time, and I was like, I can't ask a question. And then you're saying, I forgot what I was going to say, and I'm thinking, I know I'm going to forget what I'm going to say. There's too many things going on.
You're here now. You're welcome to jump back in. But first, do you sell a lot of albums? I can't remember.
Yeah. I feel like we're probably 90% like Andrea. And I've been wanting to ask Andrea how, like, because I've heard y'all say we do between 10 and 15 or 15 and 17 or 2 or whatever. But I wanted to know like what that compared. Ours
well, my numbers sound way less impressive, by the way, guys. 15 to 2. Cool.
Was the 2 from you, Michael? I thought you were referring to.
And that's ever. That's not last year. That's ever.
Oh, slap. Yeah. So
yeah, we get on it.
I mean, I don't know if you want me to say. Do you want me to answer how we do it, or?
Well, I mean, for now, if you do sell about 90%, any of the stuff that we've already gone through, you're welcome to jump in on.
Mine's just in the package. I know I hear a lot of a la carte talking.
And what is the rationale behind that? Why do you like that?
Well, we just have the 3 packages that we developed while sitting on your couch in Michigan.
Correct.
And we have the baby one, which is just straight up ours. And then this one has everything they're going to need. And it's pretty much designed for everything they're going to need and want. And that's the one. And sometimes I tell people, like y'all were saying, they're going to want to take it out sometimes.
Yeah.
And so we just tell them, this is straight up money. This is a la carte everything with 17% off everything.
17% off?
I figured it one day. That's sort of the discount that they get if they keep the bundle. If they start pulling the bundle stuff out, they can't just take an album out of that suite package and it take $1,000 off of it, because when you start bundling, like y'all were saying, I couldn't see your mouth.
Oh, we lost you. It's that mountain Wi-Fi. Give her a second. We might have lost her for good. I'm screenshotting this pause, by the way.
Good pause.
That is beautiful blackmail. Beautiful blackmail. Well, let's assume she's coming back. She's probably having a long conversation to herself, or maybe she can hear us right now. I don't know. Moving on. Okay, so Andrea, you had mentioned that your average album sale is $1,200. Do you remember how much how much your average cost is for an album to you, by chance?
I think it's 3 something.
Okay. So you're selling it for about, so on average, selling it for 12, but your cost is about 3.
Yep.
Okay. 1,200 cost or sale cost. What about you, Sydney?
Oh, I just put my numbers in because I had to look them up. It's right in between, like what I sell them for is in between, 12 and 15. And as far as like pricing goes for the albums. Let me pull up the pricing here. It's in between like $350 and $400.
Okay, so that's been my biggest like issue is I've got this really stupid thing in the back of my head where I just feel so, for whatever reason, I have no problem selling like $5,000 to $6,000 worth of wedding photography, but like you start to talk about anything north of $500 for an album, and I'm like, but they're not gonna want it, and then I don't feel comfortable like buying a sample album, so then I'm like, well, I'll just buy this like $40 thing somewhere else, and it'll be fine. But you're telling me that y'all are selling like 15 albums a year, and you're like selling them for 1,500, selling them for 1,200, and that like that cost immediately is like not so bad when you're making that return on it. Can you talk a little bit about that like kind of sticker shock, both for the client and for the photographer? Because I know I'm not the only person that goes, I do not want to spend $450 an album right now during COVID and go, nobody's going to buy them.
I want to talk about mindset.
Hit it.
So,
Yes.
I think having
Andrea, I'm going to put you on pure speaker mode. I'm just going to let you like, you're going to go on like soapbox for a minute. Hit it.
All right, so I think that having the right mindset is like the first step you have to have done in order to sell albums. Because if you have that thing in your head, it's like a block, and you're not going to get past it. So you got to remember that like an album is like an heirloom, one of a kind, custom made, once in a lifetime purchase. That is like a work of art that they're going to have forever. It's going to be passed down to generations. They can share their story with their family and their kids and their grandkids. Think about how much people spend on cell phones every 2 years. So if you just like get that mindset going, you're going to be like, oh, this is actually not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that like intellectually. I know I just need to get myself over it. But I'm still neck deep in it, man. It's so hard. I'm sitting here like, you know, I've been comparing album companies again because you know, we were at, it's another thing that Laura Babs is a sponsor for or an ambassador for, is at QT Albums, and I've seen her at a couple workshops with them, and man, they're gorgeous. They're out of like Eastern Europe somewhere, and they're just like their customer service is on point. They're always sending like really, what's that? Poland. That's right.
Poland.
That's right. And they keep sending like I think his name is Marcin out to like all these fun workshops, and they're like they bring like fun liquor from fun countries, and you're just like, oh, I want to party with these guys and buy their albums for my clients. But yeah, it's much easier to want to do that when you're sitting at a cool workshop and you know, drinking fun liquor than it is sitting in my like basement COVID studio, you know, looking at album prices. So I love it. Maybe we can as a team get everybody over this because I personally, I'm like, if I can get you know 10% of my previous clients to bite on something, that would carry us through. Because I mean, I know anybody who's sitting here who's been working for a while and has any sort of decent backlog in clients and hasn't been doing this, I mean, you'll have an uphill battle, because I guarantee you that part of the discussion will gravitate towards, you guys probably do a lot of not sales, but like discussion of albums during like the initial sales pitch for your services and like during the shooting and stuff. Is that correct?
Not a lot.
Okay, but you mentioned them early on.
Yeah, like the first mention of it is when I'm booking a client. I use 17 Hats to do my booking, and there's like the first thing they do is they have to like look at a quote. It's not called a quote, but it's called it in the back end. And they choose which package they want, and then at the bottom they can add on things like a second photographer, extra hours, and then there's the wedding album. And if they order it then and as an add-on to their package, they get $100 off.
Smart.
So I'll like in the email when I send that, I say like, hey, if you guys are even considering getting an album, you should add it on now because it'll be $100 off. But no one has ever done it. But I like having it there because it like kind of subconsciously plants the idea in their head that, oh, there are albums and maybe we want one later on, you know. And then, yeah, when I'm shooting, I'll kind of mention it sometimes, like, I think this would be great in your album or something. Like, I'll just mention it while I'm shooting their wedding or whatever. And then they don't hear anything more about it until I send them that design.
Okay, that's really interesting, because most of the discussion I've heard about this part of album sales is like, hit it early, hit it often, and like carry it in the back of your car so you can like show it to the couple at the engagement shoot, to prime them for the wedding day, to prime them for the sales day, like after the fact. And it's interesting that you're not so aggressive with it. It bodes well for us that are looking at our clients from the past 10 years and going, maybe I could sell to them. That's super interesting. Sydney, do you do a lot of pre-sales like that, or no?
I mean, I'm definitely not aggressive with it. Like, I kind of have the same thing. Like, I have, like, for all my wedding clients, I have like a ton of like automatic emails that I send them like throughout their process of, you know, their wedding planning. Before their wedding, if they don't have an album, I send them, well, I send all my couples this one. It's like different add-ons that they can put on. And it lists pretty much like everything under the sun, from like rehearsal coverage to albums. So I talk about albums there as a touch point. We talk about them usually sometimes after booking. It kind of depends. You know, if they do book my largest package that has it, then we go over the worksheet beforehand that I have. Otherwise, I do have another touch point after their wedding, which is my album sale, of course, that it's like, you know, kind of the same thing. You get 20% off. And that's just another automated email.
Interesting. What's the time frame on that 20%?
I usually do a week as well.
Cool. That's exactly the same. That's interesting. I think the answer here is something that I feel like is coalescing across all of the wedding industry. There's no cheat for this. It's like all of these little points. It's not hammer it home like a sales pitch. It's, you know, it is that little checkbox that you can add it on early, and that is really important, because it's just a little ad for them as a reminder that this exists. This is valuable. I have a couple of those little things in mind too. I don't have a wedding album there, but I've also had nobody ever do the add-ons, and I think there's probably something really interesting psychologically about add-ons being like not useful for income, but being useful for sales down the road. I have no data on that. I have no information to make that a true statement, but it's fascinating. I think this holistic view is, I mean, this is the discussion we had about social media, is that, you know, it's not about finding the cleverest hashtag. It's not about this. It's not about that. It's about a holistic view of integrating into your business model and making good things that people want to be involved in. So that's fascinating. Unless there's anything else to talk about on this, let's talk a bit about the software side of things. Does anybody else have any questions about like what we've talked about already that they want to either bring up, either that or like any questions before we move on?
I have something I want to say.
Please.
So the reason why I send them the design like the day after, or pretty much the day after I send their gallery, is because they're at like the height of their emotion over their images. And I think like, even though Sydney does her workflow differently, she kind of does the same thing. And maybe that's why it works so well, because they're kind of like more, I think it's like they're 95% more inclined to make a decision when they're at the height of their emotional like journey through the experience.
It's interesting. That's so interesting.
We do. Michael?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm gathering from all the conversation, you deliver the gallery, they've already ordered. Sydney, you said they've already ordered the album for you.
No, only for the top package.
Yeah.
Only for the top. Okay. So all these a la carte people, every client you deliver the gallery, every client you make an album, and then sort of give it to them and be like, is this something you want? If you buy it within a week, you've got 20% off?
Yeah, that's what I do.
Okay.
Every single client I design an album for, it only takes me 10 minutes. So
right. Yeah. And you're fresh, like you've freshly worked on the photos. So you've already been picking what you want. So our clients always choose their photos. We've never done it. Well, occasionally we have clients just say, I don't want to pick anything. You have to. But you're just doing it, not waiting on them.
They're allowed to make like 3 revisions for
Yes.
no cost. So they're allowed to like switch out. They could switch out all the pictures if they want. But I think it just like alleviates a lot of stress on their end.
I agree with you. That's brilliant.
Yeah, that's why, like, because I used to do like them picking out the photos, which is why it ended up taking like a year for them to order their photos, because they just didn't care. That's why I created like an album worksheet to go through like every part of the day. So it's like, okay, we have one spread of like the bride getting ready, one spread of the groom getting ready. And then, you know, then I can build the album. I show them, you know, the slides of the album pages, and then they have like the chance to revise them, but most of the time they don't.
Interesting. So we have this product that we sell for seniors. It's like a mounted collage print. And they're like just highly profitable, and I really like selling them because they don't cost too much. All the time is wrapped up in the design, or the cost is wrapped up in the design time, but we've got it down to like a science on producing them. So I like them a lot, but one of the things we've learned over the years is a similar thing of you just pitch them any design and they'll either just accept it or they'll do like 1 or 2 swaps, as opposed to having them, you know, designed by committee for 45 minutes per photo is just a nightmare. And having them go, okay, cool, if you want this, send me 17 photos or 12 photos or whatever, and I will put the design together for you. They won't. They need something, like it's that tear of the blank canvas again, right? It's this idea that they're going to be like, I don't know which is the first photo, so they just don't even start. So if you give them any sort of you know, something to latch onto, they can go, well, I don't love that photo. That's an easy decision for them, as opposed to which 17 are my favorite pictures. Let's talk. This is a good transition moment, a good kind of segue into software, because you guys are talking about this revision process. What does that look like? Is that based in the software that you're using? I don't have more to the sentence. Just revision, go. Sydney, what does that look like for you?
Well, I think both. Don't we both use Fundy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Fundy is super easy, and then you can just do the revisions right in there. I used to use
Album Stomp?
Yeah, Album Stomp. I was like, I can't remember what the other one's called.
Yeah, I only remember that because we talked about that last time. You looked it up as because Fundy's not cheap. It's like $300 for the year, $400 for the year.
Yeah.
And Album Stomp's like $150, $170 for all time.
Forever. Yeah, it's a one-time fee which I used to use it, and it was wonderful for what I needed it for. So it's definitely a good like low cost option. But definitely having that, like Fundy is like really super easy to do revisions. You just kind of plop them in there and call it good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. I missed this discussion with Kelly. What do you do with the albums that they don't purchase? Yeah, you're not printing anything until they actually approve it. So there's no cost until they actually, you know, are putting money down. So you guys are, sorry, I got sidetracked by reading. You're both using Fundy, and it has, sorry if I got distracted. This has like a revision service on top or over the top of it, right? Did you just say this?
Oh, wait, I'm missing all the questions because I'm reading all the questions in the chat.
I know.
Let me answer Abby's question.
Let's have a text-based answer round. We can answer a bunch of text-based answers, and then we'll go back.
Okay. So Emily asked, how do you share the album? So we have a built-in design proofer that's online that once you design the album, you can just export it to the proofer. It opens right up. It's like so easy to do and so fast, and then you just send it, and you can actually link like the gallery with all their pictures to that proofer, so they can pull those up and like say, I want to replace this photo with this photo, or you know, it's so easy. Yeah.
Andrea, what services connect to Fundy? Is it just PickTime, or is it other services as well?
I don't know because I don't have it connected to any. Oh no, you mean like the galleries? Any
Yeah.
has a link.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's very cool. Yeah, because I have used Album Stomp. We did try to do a thing where we sold albums a couple years ago, and it failed. Didn't do it right. And they have a similar. It's called Proofer, Prufr, and it's like a it's like a charged thing. Like you get like 10 charges or something, and then you got to recharge it. I don't remember exactly. So I have a question about that. Do either of you have one of those that would be able to be shared that we could take a look at, or is that too client specific to share publicly? Even if it was fake, even if it was like fake images or something like that.
I have one that I just did because I'm making I'm designing a class on album sales,
Cool.
and I have like a screen share of me designing an album in Fundy, and I could share that, but I don't know how to do it.
Well, we can
open up your Fundy and.
Oh, I can just put it a link, right? I can just put the link to it. I'll do that.
Yeah, if it's something that people can review after the fact, I can put it in the show notes. And then if you just want to like terminate it after a certain amount of time, so it's not just out there publicly, that's fine too.
It'll be up for I don't know a couple weeks, and then I'll take it down.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. Awesome. Do you guys use any other software, or is everything all just integrated into Fundy?
I use Fundy for everything.
Everything. Wow. So that's like design, upload. That's all the proofing software. How do you go about your sales component of it? Is that just over email? Are you trying to get on the phone with them?
No.
Video call? Say it again.
I do it all through email.
Interesting. Man, I have this thing where like I feel like people want to see things, and I feel like they want to like do the tangible. But I guess with both of you shared images with us that I put on the Instagram story that will still be up after this if you're interested. Just like some sales images, and those look really good. I guess that's enough for people, you think?
Yeah, I do have like a couple of videos that I made of me like going through albums and talking about them, and I think that helps when people are like, they don't understand like what an album is. Like,
right.
They have an idea in their head because like their parents had albums, but they're thinking like the ones that you slide pictures into the little sleeves and things.
Or like the sticky pages.
Yeah, like they don't know what it really means, and so when they see that, they're like, oh.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's why with mine, I actually have a video of me going through my own parents, not finished wedding album. And then, I go through, mine, and then also some client ones just to kind of show, and I talk about it, just saying like why it's important, and my experience with my own wedding album versus like my parents' wedding album, things like that.
Interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Andrea.
This is one of my Red Tree albums that's just a plain, like, it's their luxe leather cover, so it has like, I don't know if you can tell, but it's got like suede. So it has like a, I don't know, you can't really see on here, but
I know what you're talking about.
And then it's like super thick, like the pages are really thick, and it weighs like 50 pounds. It's just beautiful. Like when they actually get it, they're like, what? This is so much better than I thought it was ever going to be.
What size do you usually sell? Like both spread number and like dimensions? What's most popular for you?
My like base album is a 10 by 10. So I would say like half of the people get 10 by 10s and the other half upgrade to a 12 by 12, which is substantially bigger, but it's like really and usually between like 15 and 20 spreads.
15 to 20. And are you also a base 10?
Yeah.
15 to 20 spreads. What about you, Sydney? Did you catch that question?
Yeah. Yeah, mine are base 10. I just went and grabbed one of my albums. This one's actually from QT. This is the heaviest album that I own. It is so heavy. But it's really nice, like super good quality. I love doing things on video. It's so fun. So yeah, I do everything base 10, and then add-ons are 5.
Are what? In groups of 5?
Yes.
Gotcha. Interesting. So
if they want to
10
do
by-
individual ones, I allow it, but I usually try to do 5.
Well, yeah, there's a difference between the sales of it to make things easier and the like, can I throw on one more? You're like, yeah, of course, that's fine. Okay, so are you also doing 10 by 10s and upgrades to 12 by 12?
Yes. I offer 8 by 8s, 10 by 10, and 12 by 12. Those are the 3 sizes I offer.
What is
8 by 8s are parent albums.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Any additional albums, if they want to do like a engagement session book or like a guest book, those are all 8 by 8s. So it's 10 by 10 and 12 by 12 are the 2 that I offer.
Interesting. You don't offer like the standard album as an 8 by 8?
I do if they want it, but
Gotcha. But you're not pushing that. You're not selling that. That's just like they have to ask for it.
Yeah.
Andrea, do you do the parent albums and stuff?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
Those are half off? Is that what that usually is?
Mine are a set size. They're like 6.5 by 6.5 inches, I think, and they're called mini albums. And so they're like just a replica of the other album that you have, and they're my cost $150 a piece.
Okay. I was going to ask if they are.
How much is Andrea charging for those 100? Do you say 150 or 125?
Yeah, 150. I charge $300 for those. I don't mark them up 300% because I did like all the design work already, and it's just like another replica of the album that I put all the work into. So
yeah, and they can't be changed, right? They're identical. They have to be identical.
Yeah.
Interesting. And that makes sense. You're sinking all your time in the design into the first one, and then so duplicates. And are duplicates also cheaper?
I've never had anybody order a duplicate album.
Okay.
So this is for me. Yay. So my old album company, that was one thing that they did as like one of their big promotions, which is why I love them so much, was that duplicates. It was like you could buy like one duplicate, get one free. So that's what I use for my model of like how I sell my duplicates. So it's like they're just the 8 by 8 regular price, but they're buy one, get one free.
Cool.
So it's just kind of like an incentive, and I'm not losing any money because, I'm not putting any extra time into it. I've already made my money off of their bigger album.
So that's an interesting question for me, because I feel like there's a lot of things in the photo world that are like quote unquote industry standard, but when you like really knuckle down and like get into things, like clients don't care about it. And so are you actually selling that duplicate? Are people interested in that? Or is that just a thing you saw once, tried it, and then like it's not really like taking hold?
No, I sell them a lot. That's like one of my big things, is that people like parent albums. I just ordered 2 parent albums probably about a month ago for a couple that actually eloped in March. And then I had a wedding last year. She actually bought 3 parent albums because she has 3 sets of parents. So I have it all the time.
And Sydney, did I hear you say what is your price on the 8 by 8?
So, like cost wise or what I sell them for?
You can do both.
Okay. So like my cost is, let me pull that up here real quick, 'cause I'm horrible at knowing my numbers. My cost for an 8 by 8 is $825. And
for the duplicate?
It's just the normal. What?
How much for the 8 by 8s?
$825.
825?
Yes.
That doesn't seem right. Almost $1,000 for an 8 by 8 album?
That's not her cost. That's the client's cost.
Oh, gotcha. I was so scared for you. I was like, your 8 by 8 albums are like $7,000.
No, that's what I'm selling them for.
Good. I'm proud of you now. I'm less scared. I'm more proud for you now.
No, they cost $275 for me.
Gotcha.
And Sydney, is this the duplicate price for them?
Yes.
Buy one, get one free.
My 8 by 8s are the same price regardless. It's just when you order duplicates, they're buy one, get one free.
Okay, so let's say they want 2 10 by 10, or let's say they want themselves a 10 by 10, and they want 2 parent ones.
Yeah.
Your 10 by 10 is going to be 1,200.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can do a buy one for $825, you said? $875?
Mm-hmm. And the second one's free.
Okay. So that's basically what we do, except we just say duplicates are half price. But right. And we just say our pricing is like for an 8x8, it's 100 an inch. Whatever you're getting, it's 100 an inch. So if it's 10 by 10, it'd be $1,000. And then we do half price for duplicates. But the way you're doing it catches their eye, and they're like, holy cow, we could give our parents, and they're paying the exact same stuff they're paying us, but you're probably getting a lot more response.
Yeah. So this is what I find interesting about these kind of, I'll call it gambits, or like these kind of tricks is, so Abigail had a question about like album thickness, paper thickness, covering. One of the things that we've done well with our print sales over the years is not worrying about offering everything to everybody, instead curating like exactly what you want to sell, exactly what you think people are interested in, and selling just that. And it will take time to like A/B test it. It'll take time to dial this in. But, and I will ask you guys those questions: paper thickness, paper types, album stuff like that, or album coverage and stuff like that. But I know that regardless of what you say, my solution is going to be digging into whatever vendor we end up picking for this project, and then just finding things that I love, selling those things, and maybe even like rebranding the names a little bit so that they fit within our branding, and not having, like, if the company has like 5 micron, 70 micron, I don't know, paper thickness, whatever. If they've got like 17 different types of paper thickness, just pick one, pick two if you have to, but like making it really dead simple for people. They're going to want your experience on it much more than they're going to want that nuanced back and forth on, do I want the 12 micron or the 17 micron? I mean, do we agree on that? Is that something that you guys do as well?
Yeah. Like the more simple you can make it, the better. Like their choices.
Yeah. Conversely though, this is going to sound contrary, but I agree with both of these ideas at the same time. I have in everything I do, I believe in tiered pricing, so that yes, you're giving them like 3 options. They may be not the options that they would originally pick because you've curated them, but all 3 of those options are things that you want them to experience, want them to do. They fit in with your business model. They fit in with like why you think albums or whatever the thing you're selling is important. And then from there, they can't make a bad decision because you've curated that for them. Does that make sense? How it's both things at the same time?
Yep. I completely agree with that.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, so do you guys have options for paper thickness, covering, all that kind of stuff?
I don't have an option for paper thickness. With Red Tree, they don't have options for paper thickness. It's just one thickness.
Gotcha.
But like I've used like Miller's in the past, and they have like thin pages or thick pages. And I've ordered the thin pages and found that they're pretty thick, and their thick pages are like really thick. And I was like, oh, these thick pages are like totally unnecessary. I mean, it's like really thick. So like as far as Miller's goes, I don't know if I would order the thick pages.
Interesting.
But I do, I have like 3 different types of cover material that they can pick from, and then there's probably like 3 to 5 colors within those types. Like
Gotcha.
one is leather and one is the luxe leather.
Are those upcharges, or is it like a just options?
Yeah, so for the basic album, they get fabric, and the fabric has 3 different color choices.
Okay, interesting. How are you sourcing, because this is something that's been difficult for me over the years. How are you sourcing images of all of those different things? Are you just taking vendor images for like the different colors?
Yeah, so for like the cover swatches, I've used the swatches that are on the vendor website.
Gotcha. Cool.
For like the photos of the albums, or like marketing photos of, album, what the covers and things look like with the text and the cameos or whatever the different options are. In the beginning, I didn't have like any samples to use, so I would pull pictures off of the manufacturer website, but I would try to like limit that. And then as soon as I got my first sample, I used my own pictures and slowly have, populated everything with my own photos.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything shady about that. I mean, you're still showing off the product that the client will be receiving, even if you have to put some sort of like stipulation, like, these are vendor images, so don't expect your these are not my the photos are not my work. Sydney, do you do something similar?
Yeah. Well, going back to like options and stuff like that, like the reason why, like part of the reason why is I'm switching album company is because like I don't really like the fact that, some album companies, they offer like 40 different like cover options, from like plexiglass to like fancy fabrics and everything. Like,
yeah,
I'd rather have something that's super basic but like high quality, which is why I'm
Mhm.
switching. So like cover options for me is linen or leather, and there's 7 colors of each. That's it. And then they have like, because those are both included, you get to pick. And that's like as far as I go, as like what they get to pick that's free. And then like add-ons are like they can get their names on the cover or like their raised initials on the cover. And then like I also offer like a walnut album box as like an upcharge.
Do people buy that?
I mean, I just switched, so I don't know yet.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
We'll find out soon. I'm hoping so, because it's
Report
so
back.
pretty.
Yeah, I've seen people spend photographers spend so much money on delivery delivery boxes, and man, I cannot get behind spending $500 on a box to put wedding photos in.
That's a little obnoxious.
No.
I mean, I like ones that say have like the couple's names on them, even if they're kind of basic. Because I have ordered ones in the past from different companies, and it's like the album company's name on it, and I'm like, well, that's cool. I didn't really want that.
Yeah. Kelly wrote, that's why I don't like WHCC albums. Too many options, too many types of albums, too many things that confuse me. For sure.
Right.
And, if you had the time and unlimited money, you could order one of each and drop, really get into like understanding which is which. But I do feel like that's, having not bought from any of the high-end ones, I do feel like that is what one of the services that they offer is a curation of just quality. And then you can just pass that quality cost onto your clients, as long as you're marketing correctly and as long as you're showing the value to your people. All right.
Definitely like with that, like, if you're confused, then your couples are going to be confused, and you don't want that. Like, you don't want your clients confused, because then they're not going to want to buy that album.
Yep.
They're going to throw their hands up in the air and be like, I'm done.
Yeah. In the same way that when you have somebody interested in your services initially and you need to create like, you need to have them be able to understand in the back of their mind what the experience is going to look like from start to finish. You need to like conjure that somehow using dark magic, what it will look like to be on their wedding day with you, being friends, taking pictures together. You need them to be able to picture like what that album is going to look like before they've seen it, in their hands, on their coffee table, showing it to their mom, showing it to their best friend. That's what will sell it in my mind, having sold 2. I have a lot of opinions for someone who has sold 2 albums. I have a lot of opinions about a lot of things. Okay, I'm trying to think. I think that covers all, kind of covered all of my questions. Does anybody's here have any questions that we should jump into? Man, I'm trying to pull up the questions on the Facebook Live, but when I do it, it like unmutes the video, and it's really quite annoying, and it's just really slow. Come on. I'd love to be able to respond to that. Grace says, Andrea, I love that, but I have no idea what that's in reference to, so I guess we're just gonna
One of them is, when do your clients handle your sample albums for the first time?
Do they handle your sample albums ever, is the question, right?
Sometimes.
When how would that happen? At the wedding day, do you bring one in your car with you to share?
No, it'd be if we did an in-person meeting before they book.
Okay.
That's the only time I really, otherwise, like, well, at least lately, if somebody has an interest in, an album, I do like offer like showing them like on a Zoom call, you know, I'll do like the photos, or I'll just record a video.
Mm-hmm.
And I have like kind of like a stash of like videos that I've done of like, you know, actual wedding albums. You know, I'll every time I get one, I record it and like do photos of it, so I have them to share, you know, with couples.
That's great. I mean, that's just the same discussion we had earlier about like how do you convey weight, quality, and value over the internet. And I think that is, I mean, that's a quintessential, that is a quintessential need for anybody who's marketing any service over the internet. I don't know about y'all, but so many of my clients don't live where I live. And so for that, I'm very rarely doing face-to-face interview sessions with our clients pre-booking their wedding. I mean, not even just because of COVID, just because my clients don't live here. My clients are in New York and California and Chicago and all over the place. So that is a hurdle that we all must overcome. And this is, I guess, just another excuse to kind of practice jumping over that hurdle.
Same
Okay.
thing for all my clients are out of state and or somewhere far away, so I don't ever like show anybody albums except for through videos or Zoom calls.
Yeah, same. Interesting. Yeah, I think that the only other thing would be marketing stuff, but we kind of went over that. I think
Pricing.
Pricing, which we
Pricing was
kind
a
of,
question that was on the Facebook.
yeah, which we went into a little bit. We went into specifics. I guess we didn't go into like how you came to those numbers, how you came to like, do you have like a straight percent that you mark up, or how did that work for you guys?
So industry standard for album sales is 300 to 500% markup.
Yep.
And how do you decide if you are 300 or 500% markup?
Well, if you want to be lower end and you want to cater towards people who don't want to spend a lot of money, then go towards 300%.
Cool. Right.
So if you just take whatever the cost is for you to order the album and triple that, and then take that number and times it by 5, and then find a number in between there that you're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is actually something I just did since I'm switching album companies. So I'm going to share it with you.
Cool.
So for that 8x8 album, that was $275. You know, I decided to put mine on the lower end for the 300%. But the 300% is $825. And then the 500 is $1,375. So it's kind of like you can kind of just choose a number in between there if you'd like. You know, it's like whatever you feel comfortable with, and also whatever sells best for you.
For sure. And like these things, yeah, I can speak to this from my print sales experience, but I know that print or sales prices tend to move around as you see what people gravitate towards. If you're finding, and this is, you know, this is a discussion about pricing for any services, as you're finding that the thing that is cost prohibitive or that you don't like selling, when that thing is just selling a lot of, you raise the prices on it. When people are always buying your high-end album, that means you can slide all of your prices up just a little bit, and you want to find people in that little sweet spot in the middle. So they're not going to the cheap thing because that means that everything is just a little too expensive, and they're not going just to the high-end things. That means that you have more room to sell higher-end items towards. So finding, then that comes back to that tiered pricing model, finding ways that people can find that sweet spot for themselves. And at the same time, you're kind of like floating that thing around and finding where your clients are really comfortable selling. I also really believe in, you know, finding that sweet spot and then finding a number that feels reasonable. So I don't often sell things for $817. I'll, you know, round to 800 or round to 825. Because that feels more organic. I've seen people do, you know, their photo sessions will be, you know, $217 because they're a very analytical mind and they've done their you know, cost benefit analysis or their, you know, their break even percentages and found that that's what it costs them to do business there. And that's fine, but you can do better than that. You can do better than breaking even, I guess is what we're getting at, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of psychology at play when it comes to pricing, and it's I've read a lot of books on like that, and it's very interesting. Lots of stuff out there.
Agreed. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions they want to talk about, or things they want to discuss? Steph, you got anything?
So this was very helpful.
Cool. Are you feeling? Say it again.
Oh, I knew I came in here like a blank canvas. Now I feel good.
What do you feel? What do you feel like you're gonna do leaving here? Do you feel like you're gonna try to sell albums? Do you feel like you have a purchase on what your like next step is?
I think that I really like the idea, kind of what you do, Andrea, where you because I'm really introverted too, and most of my couples are pretty muted, and I do a lot more like elopements than I do like your traditional wedding per se. So I guess I've never really pushed it. I'm not like you, Michael. I'm not very salesy. I don't want to be that person who's like, you want to buy this? Oh, what about that?
Right.
So I like how you were like, oh, I loved your photos so much. I did this album. Check it out. I think that's like very organic and a very like non-pushy way to be like, you should buy this, but also like it does kind of make it a little more tangible for them to see what it could look like. So I like that idea going into that. But the album company that I've signed up for is not one that anyone has mentioned. So I kind of am curious to see how that's going to go.
Who is it?
Indie Print.
Okay, I don't know. I haven't used them. As I have samples from at least like 10 different albums.
Really?
I do.
Sydney, is there anything that you have just been like, hell no, like stay away from?
I'm not a huge fan of Miller's, to be honest, or WHCC. I mean, I think they're kind of on the same par. I've ordered from them before. I mean, this was years and years ago, but I just wasn't happy with their quality. I know a lot of like higher end photographers use Miller's, but I don't really see the draw to them besides like their quick turnaround. But a lot of other album companies are like that too. But other than that, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of like album companies that are run by photographers. I know, I think Red Tree is. There's Serendipity Albums, which is I believe they're based out of Texas. And then the one that I'm working with now, Blacksmith Prints, they're also, I believe they're out of California.
Cool.
But they're also owned by like, you know, a wedding photographer. So it's nice having like those that catered more to or understand, you know, what I want out of an album company versus somebody who's just here to make money off of me.
For sure.
Yeah.
No,
Like
go ahead, Andrew.
Miller's, WHCC, I can't think of who else, but like those companies don't just specialize in albums. Like they also do printing, and they also do wall art, and they also do, you know, and I think like working with companies that just specialize in albums, you see like a whole nother quality and like customer service level.
For sure. Now that's not to say that you can't dabble in, like if you don't want to go this high-end route, you can sell at a different tier. I think that I don't want to make it seem like you guys are doing something that's like over the top, because I don't think that's the case. But there could be a case made for a less expensive wedding album. But you know, that's not the route that I would plan on going personally. But I don't know. I believe that people set their own values for their business. And if this isn't if you're not valuing this, but you do want to make sales here, I guess there's a way you could make that work. There was a question, so Tiffany Clark wrote on Facebook, I do think that it's a benefit to our clients to encourage them to print so they don't have all these beautiful pictures sitting on their computer. And I think it is a good way to separate ourselves from an amateur photographer. I agree with both of those wholeheartedly. I think, you know, part of the discussion on Instagram being, do you wish you printed more? I mean, how many of your clients say that? All my clients say that all the time, right? Like, I've got all these beautiful pictures on my phone, some of them yours, some of them just cute pictures of my family, and they just live there and I forget about them. What did you say, Sydney? 8x8 is
Oh, that was
18.5 regardless. Oh, gotcha. You're responding to someone over there. Cool. Well, more questions, guys. Anything else you want to talk about? Cool. Abigail, we lost you for a minute. If you've got any questions, you're welcome to pop back on and say hi. But you don't have to. Kelly, you got anything you want to talk about? Cool. All right. I think I'm good, guys. Oh, actually, I gotta. It won't let me show my face. Let me see. Ask to start video. Ask to unmute. Let's see. Let's see if it works. I don't know. Welcome back. Welcome back.
I've been locked out.
It's okay. You are welcome to be here. Abigail, do you have any? Do you have a handle on kind of what you want to do going forward?
Definitely, because I knew nothing either. But I have a full 2 pages of notes now, so this is perfect.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Yeah, I'll put some show notes together for this. I'd love to figure out a way that we could get, whether it's like some sort of like sponsorship or like just perks for people through some wedding album companies. So I don't know anybody. I just know like some of the guys from QT from workshops, but that's it. I know how to get like alcohol from them. That's the only experience that I have with them. Trying to think. Oh, some thoughts going. So I'm gonna put like a screen wipe here and be like end of this part of this, and unless anybody else got more questions. But while I have you all, I want to talk a little bit about like what's coming up down the pipe for us all. One, I don't know if anybody saw, I like broke this conversation out into a separate Instagram. It's at Good Humans Project. Just to try to clean up the Instagram a little bit so that I'm not like that we can keep like the community photos in one place and keep like this chat going there, and I'll just share this stuff over on the story on Instagram. I've been in talk with Up North Pride. We did the inclusivity workshop last year, and obviously with COVID-19, that's not going to happen, but we are going to be doing something for them. It looks like we are going to be able to do some sort of cool at distance workshop. I'm still in the works. There's a really fun guest that that has agreed to work with us on it, but I'm not going to tell you who because it's way too fun. And I'm just stoked to work with this person as a human being. I think so. I've got the next I've got the next 3 calls scheduled. Well, actually, no, the next 2 Tuesdays I don't have somebody for, but then Friday, June 5th, we're talking with Hallie Kohler, and then Tuesday, June 9th, we're talking with Jessica Max. After that, I'm thinking people are starting to get busy again, and I think we're going to go to 1 a week, unless you guys are like just still like crazy hungry for this. I don't want to like cut it down too early, but I think at the beginning of quarantine, it was like just like almost like a public service to have these running, and now it's just like a fun thing that we do, and I want to continue them going. Hence the new name, so that's not a quarantine based thing. I got to figure out exactly when is the best time, especially as people get busy again. So maybe there'll be an evening thing. Maybe there'll be like a mid-morning thing. Maybe it'll be, I don't think they're going to be noon on Saturday. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I'll do a poll. I'll do a poll on Instagram and Facebook. But if anybody has like a genius idea for a time that is like the most obvious thing in the world, feel free to DM me because I'm not smart like that. And then if anybody has people that they think we should be interviewing, especially somebody that I wouldn't know or somebody that I wouldn't know to reach out to, please let me know. Because or topics. I really loved this one. This one was a really cool roundtable discussion. Weirdly, I really loved that there was 7 of us here instead of the normal 15 or 20. So it was really, really good to be able to have like the chat with people who have done this and people who haven't done this very often. Cool. I appreciate you all. I'm like super jazzed that everybody's like still sticking around and doing this dorky thing with me. And I know this isn't coming anytime soon, but I've been like thinking about photo walks again, and I just like can't wait to hang out with you guys in real life when it's not gonna, you know, cause more of a global pandemic to happen. So.
Oh, I know. I'm itching to do a Grand Rapids one, or like one here in Grand Haven. Either way, I'm just like, I'd love to do one over here, but I'm just like, when do we do this?
We should definitely have a talk about that now that since quarantine, we've obviously like expanded our reach a lot more. You know, this started as just a northern Michigan. Hell, this started as like a Traverse City or like a when Michael wants to go out and shoot with other humans thing. But now, yes, we will come to North Carolina. I know there's some people there. I know a bunch of people there, and they just want to shoot. And so I'm open to discussion on this. But I love the idea of Sydney. Like, let's just coordinate them. And when it makes sense to open back up, let's all just go out with this shooting with the same intentional mindset. Like, let's set a topic or a theme, or, you know, we did these really fun challenge shoots at the tail end of the before times. The quick shoot challenge was like just such a fun shooting experience where we set it, you know, specific time frames, be back in 4 minutes with dope pictures, be back in 7 minutes with dope pictures. And so if we can all kind of go out in our different hubs and do the same thing, as long as you've got enough people in your region to shoot, I think it'd be really fun. And then we could all pop over to each other's photo walks when it makes sense. Emily,
I have an idea for Andrea. Did you say you're developing a kind of tutorial mentoring session thing with album things?
Oh, I'm doing an online course. I'm almost done with it. It should be up like in the next couple days.
Okay.
Just shooting some videos for it.
Say it again, the last line.
I'm in the middle of shooting some videos for it.
Cool. Yeah, let us know when that's done. We'll signal boost that thing. What were you going to say about that, Emily?
Oh, I always think, man, I wish I could watch someone do this specific thing. Like, it's not like, you know, when you're at a workshop and the professional photographer who's better than you and the mentor.
They're not better than you, by the way. They're not better than you.
No. Like, you know, where they're like this, and I've had people tell me, I won't say names, but they're like, don't talk like that. This is how you talk. And you talk like this to the client, and you stroke their hair like this. And that's not what I'm talking about. When I say, I want to see you work. And so I was just thinking, Andrea, like, or Sydney, but Andrea was the one who said she's doing this video thing. I love to watch people work, like with a real client. And like the other day, I was like, why did I not video me talking to my client, delivering her album? We were both bawling, like snot face, wiping over how beautiful these photos were. And I was thinking, I should have videoed that. Like, my clients would love to see the, you know, like their photos revealed, and it would just bring such excitement for future clients. And so I was thinking, if anyone else feels like that or has anything like that, I would love, like Andrea, you said you're doing this workshop thing with your album. I don't know if anyone ever has the same ambition to film real live things with clients, or is that too hard? I don't know.
Yeah, I do, but it's the same thing where it's always like after the fact, I'm like, shoot.
Right.
Taking a video of that.
Well, we could make it into whether it's like a blog series or like a series on the YouTube channel. If anybody wants to be, I don't want to say guinea pig. Sydney did a really, really good job with the gift tutorial, and I want so badly to, like, when I'm just sitting here like, oh, what should I do for the YouTube channel? Like, throw an editing tutorial together, but my editing is so boring. So if anybody wants to take that on, if anybody's got content that they want to throw up on our YouTube channel, I would die for that. I would adore having that kind of stuff. And so maybe if we just make it like a specific request and say, like, you know, bring us your tutorials, bring it, like, are you doing something awesome? And that might encourage you, Andrea, to, like, you know, get your act together and like record ahead of time if you just know that that's a platform that's available to you. Would that be valuable?
Yeah, I've been meaning to like do some editing videos with my presets, and that's another thing that I'm just like, oh, it's been how long now? I haven't done it.
For sure. For sure. Interesting. Yeah, Emily, that's a really good idea. Not that I need one more project to brand and create. Like, we'll make a whole different Instagram for it. I'm at my capacity. It will not let me make another Instagram on my phone.
I think the other thing is that's really hard is we think we have to go back and start video editing our video.
Yeah.
And the pressure of all that. I don't know about y'all, but I don't know how to do that. I know what I like, but I can't make a beautiful production. It'd be raw.
Right. Emily, that's exactly why I don't have a YouTube channel where I'm, hello and welcome to the show. Like, this is my cheat is just, I'm just going to talk to people. And then I'm not even going to edit it. We'll just throw it up there.
Yes.
But I don't need that. I need that realness instead of that edited life, you know?
Agreed.
Okay. More things, guys? Anybody? Okay, cool. Y'all are amazing. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.